Here we are at my first British Nationals hang gliding competition task. I've entered the sports class and my immediate goals are to get past a single turn point before going down and also to beat my previous altitude record of 6,300 feet above sea level. The task looks fairly simple. Take off from Chabre and run along the ridge to Col Saint-Jean, swipe past a turn point over Barré-sur-Mioge, then head out onto the flatlands tagging large turn point at Hongrie, then into goal at the Laragne-Monteglon campsite. Total distance about 35 kilometres. What could possibly go wrong? Well, it turns out quite a few things could go wrong actually. It was a pretty stressful rigging up session, so I ended up being one of the last gliders to take off. It was about 34 degrees and my phone overheated and turned itself off just as I was about to take off. And I found out later that I'd smudged suntan lotion all over one of the lenses on the camera. Not a great start, but my takeoff was fine and I started gaining height pretty quickly. The phone cooled down in the airstream and I managed to get that going again. I'd been told to get plenty of height before heading down the ridge, and with my previous altitude record at 6,300 feet, I decided that 7,000 to 8,000 feet was more than enough to get anywhere I wanted. It didn't take long to realise that plenty of height meant quite a lot more than I thought. I left the start cylinder closely after the first start gate with about 7,300 feet. This height quickly dwindled away till I was flying between 5,000 to 5,500 feet along the top of the ridge, with still several kilometres to go to the first turn point and any decent landing options. I managed to top up to 6,500 feet a couple of times as I struggled along the ridge, but hit the turn point with under 5,000 feet and just a few hundred feet above the top of the ridge. I was completely out of my comfort zone at this point. I could see the landing fields but wasn't sure I could make it to them from this point. I spent several minutes scratching the edge of the ridge at about ridge height until a thermal came through and I climbed up to about 7,100 feet before setting back along the ridge. Airspace started at 7,500 feet, which was okay for me, though it caught a few of the pilots out. I needed to top up a few times back along the ridge to the Chabre takeoff, not quite as difficult as on the way to that first turn point, but I was already pretty twitchy from how the task was going so far. Partway along the ridge I thought about heading out into the valley straight to the second turn point where there were good landing options, but bottled out and went back to the task start point where I knew I would be able to get some good lift. After a few minutes flying at the initial launch site, a good thermal blew in and carried me up to about 10,600 feet. That's my first time with 5 digits on the altimeter. I was a lot more comfortable. My instrument said I needed less than 8 to 1 glide to get into gold about 20 kilometers away, and only 2.3 to 1 glide to get to the next turn point, so I set off. I caught the second waypoint easily with over 8,000 feet, then turned out towards the flatlands with instruments still saying 7.5 to 1 glide to make it to goal. There was plenty of lift along the way which reduced this to less than 6 to 1, but I caught another great thermal and forgot about the race for a few minutes while I watched the altimeter go over 10,000 feet again. Once I remembered it was a competition again, I needed just over 3 to 1 glide to make goal. I flew past the campsite goal field with 8 kilometers to go and about 9,700 feet. I tagged the last waypoint just before the canal and turned back to arrive at goal at about 5,600 feet above sea level. It took me quite a few minutes to burn off the height, but plenty of time to study several other pilots' landing strategies who came in while I was dropping down. Pretty light wind in the landing field, and I needed a few steps to finish off the landing, but it was all good, and I even managed a squeal of triumph once I got my breath.
Yay! Yeah. Whoa. Oh, good. Oh.
What a great day and a whole lot of lessons learned. I ended up in 4th place, mainly due to some pilots entering airspace. They had almost all beaten me into goal, but lost their placings due to the slight infringement.